The holidays are supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, right? But let's be real. This season can also be a minefield, especially when family expectations clash with your sense of self. Maybe it's the pressure to conform, to play a role you've outgrown somehow, or to reconnect with people who don't understand the person that you've become. For many, this season brings not just joy, but also exposes a renewed awareness of the attachments, visible or invisible, that bind us. And attachments, while totally normal, can become very difficult and toxic as well. Many of us, especially moving within this anti-conformist realm, which I imagine Stena has led us to, really struggle to keep family relations spook-free. Maybe we feel unseen or unheard by family. Maybe we're treated like we're strange or disappointing in some way. Maybe our unwillingness to follow traditions or pointing out the spookiness of them is too much to handle for most family members. Because I know exactly what it's like, today, I want to explore what it means to break free from attachments, especially those rooted in family tradition, using an egoist perspective inspired by none other than Max Stena. Do we have to completely exit these family relations, or can we come to a compromise? The way I want to approach this is by developing a kind of egoist psychology approach, which follows the teachings of Max Stena. So let's go.
Just a quick interruption to let you know you can now become a member of the channel and access various perks, including weekly topic requests, polls, shoutouts, and priority comments.
Attachment. It's one of those things we grapple with at some point. Whether it's to a person, an ideal, or even a version of ourselves, attachments have a way of creeping in and claiming pieces of our lives without us even realizing it. Attachment, as John Bowlby outlined in his work, is the psychological and emotional bond that connects us to others. It begins in infancy and is forged through our earliest interactions with our caregivers. Mary Ainsworth's strange situation study revealed that these early experiences delineate our attachment styles, which she calls secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized. These styles, once set, reverberate through our lives, and they subtly steer our relationships, our emotional needs, and even our fears. But attachment isn't just a psychological construct. It's, as psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan might argue, a mirror stage that has gotten a little bit out of control. A continuous negotiation between the desire for recognition and the persistent lack that defines human subjectivity. Lacan would probably remind us that to desire is to be ensnared in the symbolic order, forever chasing that which we believe will complete us. I have actually written an article about a personal situation of mine that relates to this, and I would like to reiterate it here. I've always struggled with social events where my presence feels expected since I was a kid, because it makes me feel like a show where I'm supposed to flaunt some kind of social skill which I just don't have. For a long time, I thought that I was a bad person because of this, which was reinforced by the people who criticized me for feeling uncomfortable and out of place. When I tried talking to friends or family about it, I feel they weren't really open to my worldview and instead often focused on feeling hurt by what they saw as my indifference to them or what they perceived as my rejection of the way that they lived their lives. And this affected me deeply. I felt very guilted into things. I felt expected to do things I didn't enjoy or felt comfortable with. I was expected to conform to something I didn't want to conform to, and this left me feeling extremely inadequate. That is until I stopped and asked myself, what about me? No one ever asked what it's like for me to go to these events, what I feel when I'm expected to attend parties, birthdays, and holidays. And I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. I think there are many people who care deeply about others but struggle with social hierarchies and rituals just like I do. For some of us, especially those who are neurodivergent, avoiding these events might even be a form of self-preservation, but that's not really how people look at it, is it? So, to those who value relationships based on how much others sacrifice their own truths for your idea of love, I have to ask, are you really as good of a friend, relative, or person as you think you are? I've never asked anyone to conform to my standards or perspectives, so why is it fair to ask me to conform to yours? So ultimately what I had to do was realize that my compromise was a response to my socialization. This feeling of inadequacy came from the sense of social obligation, but I also realized that those people were just as affected by that as me. They were just doing what they had been taught, but they were willing to reject me and accept how it made me feel for the sake of social obligation and fitting in. So I decided I needed to detach myself from that, not necessarily meaning that I would never see them again, but I needed to come to an understanding in myself. I needed to come to an agreement with myself on what I truly cared about and prioritized. I needed to detach to figure out this attachment. And that is what I want to explore further here with the help of Max Stirner, Jacques Lacan, and the psychology of attachment. Max Stirner's egoist philosophy offers us a radical reframing of the approach to attachment. Stirner describes spooks as abstract ideals, constructed by society, religion, or culture that take root within us and dictate our thoughts and behaviors. So, attachment, viewed through this lens, becomes a spook, or a spectral force compelling us to act in ways that contradict our own desires and autonomy. So let's look at how Max Stirner describes what it takes to escape attachments to external ideals and internalized desires by looking at the chapter A Human Life from his text, The Ego and Its Own. So, Max Stirner's A Human Life chapter outlines the potential evolution of self-awareness and self-ownership throughout different stages of life. In childhood, the individual confronts the world through curiosity, rebellion, and self-assertion, and gradually overcomes fear of external forces by discovering their inner resilience or mind, or what he calls Geist. Youth brings an intellectual awakening which shifts focus from tangible objects to abstract ideals like truth and freedom, and often causes the youth to lose themselves in these higher collective concepts. Adulthood, if marked by ownness, then transcends such ideals and prioritizes practical egoistic interests and reclaiming ownership of thoughts and desires by rejecting external authorities or spooks. So what Stirner does is he emphasizes the progression from dependence on external powers to discovering and embracing one's autonomy and self-ownership. And this journey ultimately leads to the realization that oneself, as an embodied individual, is the true center of their existence. This progression is actually very similar to attachment theory. So, attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby, focuses on how early relationships, particularly with caregivers, shape the individual's capacity to form secure attachments and their approach to autonomy later in life. So, let's relate that to Stirner's concept. So, in childhood, a child's attachment to their primary caregivers is crucial for their sense of security. And Stirner's description of childhood echoes this attachment dynamic. The child tests boundaries and gradually develops resilience or courage or Geist, which helps them move beyond the external authority of their parents and societal rules. This mirrors how children develop from dependence on caregivers to exploring and asserting independence in the world. The fear of punishment or rejection, which is often present in early attachment relationships, diminishes as the child internalizes a sense of resilience and control. So in psychological terms, this transition from attachment to autonomy could be seen as the child moving from a secure base to increasing independence as they grow. In youth, the focus shifts to abstract ideals like truth, freedom, humanity, and so forth, similar to the adolescent's quest for identity, which is considered a key stage in attachment theory. During adolescence, individuals seek to define themselves outside of their caregivers' expectations and begin to engage with broader societal norms and ideologies. Stirner notes that youth often lose themselves in these ideals, which can lead to a kind of self-alienation. So from an attachment perspective, this phase could be understood as a rebellion against previous attachment structures like parental authority and a search for a new secure base in abstract or collective ideals. This process involves some some level of attachment to external concepts like religion or ideology that provide a sense of meaning and security, but these are ultimately external spooks that prevent true self-ownership in Stirner's theory. Then, finally, adulthood in Stirner's framework marks a critical shift. The individual moves beyond these external ideals and recognizes their own embodiment and autonomy as the true center of their existence. From the standpoint of attachment theory, this could be seen as the individual achieving a kind of earned autonomy after navigating early dependencies. It's a stage where attachment to external authorities is replaced by self-ownership and self-reliance. This aligns with the psychological notion of individuation, in which the person fully integrates their sense of self and moves beyond dependency on caregivers and societal constructs. To look into the deeper layers of attachment and also strengthen Stirner's argument that a radical break might be necessary, let's have a look at what Lacan has to say about interpersonal relationships, or what he refers to as the self-other dynamic. To bring Lacanian psychoanalysis into the fold, we need to understand attachment as not just a developmental phenomenon, but a structuring principle for our subjectivity. So for Lacan, human experience is always mediated through the symbolic order, which is the realm of language, social norms, and cultural ideals that shapes who we are and how we relate to others. The symbolic is not neutral. It's riddled with gaps and inconsistencies, and it leaves us in a perpetual state of desire. And desire, as Lacan famously said, quote, is the desire of the other. So this means that our wants and attachments are always mediated by the desires, expectations, and demands of others. So from this perspective, attachment is not just about emotional bonds. It's about our entanglement in a network of symbols and meanings that promise to fill the void at the center of our being, but they never actually do it. Lacan's concept of the object cause of desire helps clarify this a little bit further. So the object cause of desire is that elusive something we believe will complete us, but it's always just out of reach. And attachments to family traditions, societal roles, and ideals often function as the object cause of desire, or what Stirner would call spooks, that we pursue in the hope of finding fulfillment. Yet these attachments never deliver what they promise. Instead, they perpetuate our sense of lack. For example, when we attend a family gathering out of obligation, as was my case, hoping it will bring us closer to loved ones or provide a sense of belonging, we are often left feeling more alienated after. Why? Because the ritual is not truly our own. It's dictated by the symbolic order, and it's absolutely loaded with expectations and roles that constrain rather than liberate. Lacan's notion of the split subject, which is divided between the conscious I and the unconscious desire shaped by the other, resonates with Stirner's critique of spooks. Just as Stirner sees individuals as haunted by ideals that claim authority over them, Lacan shows us how our desire of self is fractured by the demand of the symbolic order. But where Lacan emphasizes the impossibility of ever escaping this split, Stirner does offer us a way to navigate it by embracing ownness. The ego does not have to reconcile with external ideals or even seek to complete itself. Instead, it should reclaim its autonomy by recognizing spooks for what they are: phantoms with no intrinsic power except what we give them. In Lacanian terms, this would mean refusing to be fully captured by the desire of the other. Instead of chasing the unattainable object cause of desire, an egoist approach might involve creating our own meanings free from the coercive pull of societal expectations. So how does this apply to the question of family and tradition? Well, from a Lacanian perspective, family structures are deeply embedded in the symbolic order, and they serve as one of the primary sites where the subject learns to desire. Family expectations often reflect the desires of the other, and participating in traditional rituals can feel like submitting to a symbolic authority that undermines our autonomy. Stirner's egoist lens helps us interrogate these attachments. Are we attending the holiday dinner because we truly want to, or because we fear being labeled as selfish or unloving? Are we clinging to traditions out of genuine enjoyment, or because they serve as a spook or a socially constructed ideal of what families should be? And then even further, are we rebelling to these structures out of a sense of attachment, or is it because we truly have a problem with what they represent? So, by combining Lacan's insights into the symbolic with Stirner's call for ownness, we can begin to dismantle the spooks that tether us to unwanted attachments. This doesn't mean rejecting family outright or abandoning all traditions. It just means engaging with these relationships and rituals on our own terms, without succumbing to the weight of external expectations. So how does one even break attachment? Well, let's compare the approach used commonly nowadays with what Stirner is offering as an option. The conventional therapeutic approach that is common nowadays to learn to navigate attachment is very flawed, in my opinion. It assumes that detaching from external sources of authority or ideals is a linear, progressive process that automatically leads to healthy autonomy and healthy personal psychological growth. But in contrast, life's complexity often don't follow this kind of trajectory. Many people struggle to break attachments to ingrained social norms or internalized authority figures, and the journey to true self-ownership isn't guaranteed or automatic if we're constantly striving for healthier ways of dealing with social obligations. Traditional psychological theories tend to overlook the depth of influence these attachments can actually have on the individual, and they fail to fully account for the persistence of the influences despite attempts to detach. Also, these theories often place autonomy in a social context that still values conformity or external validation, which can conflict with Stirner's vision of radical individualism and self-ownership. So, Stirner's approach to breaking attachment, on the other hand, radically diverges from these conventional psychological theories in both its philosophical underpinnings and its implications for self-ownership and autonomy. So the first one would be to reject all external authorities. Stirner's concept of spooks presents a different view of attachment. So for Stirner, attachment to external authorities or societal ideals like religion, morality, and even humanistic ideals like truth or freedom is inherently limiting and prevents true self-ownership. In Stirner's framework, breaking attachment isn't about finding new or healthier attachments, but rather entirely rejecting all forms of external authority and control. So the aim is to liberate oneself from everything that imposes upon one's freedom, including the very idea of attachment itself. This is a form of radical individuation where autonomy is achieved not by developing new attachments, but by severing all ties to spooks, including rebellion, which is a big one and a problematic one. The second one would be to view self-ownership as the center of existence. So in Stirner's view, autonomy is not a developmental process that gradually unfolds from dependence to independence. It's instead, autonomy is rooted in the rejection of all external values and authorities in favor of one's own embodied self. It's a dramatic reassertion of self-ownership where one recognizes that their own desires, actions, and will are the only valid source of authority. So while traditional psychological theories view autonomy as a healthy and balanced transition away from external dependence, Stirner sees it as a fundamental and existential shift that breaks all attachments, whether to caregivers, ideals, societal norms, and so forth, in favor of an unapologetic embrace of the self. The third approach would be to change or shift the way we view the role of ideals. So, in the common psychological approach, breaking attachment often involves confronting and reshaping one's relationships with ideals and external authorities like societal norms and familial expectations. While these ideals are often seen as constraints that need to be worked through or integrated for a healthier self-concept, Stirner sees them as oppressive forces to be entirely rejected. So for Stirner, the individual has to detach not only from external attachments, but actively challenge and eliminate all spooks on a consistent basis, even the ideals of freedom, morality, and community that are often celebrated in traditional therapeutic or developmental framework. So the aim isn't to replace external ideals with more personal ones, but to abolish the need for any ideals at all. Then the fourth approach involves prioritizing existential freedom over psychological health. And this one's very important. So while the common psychological approach often focuses on emotional health, interpersonal relationships, and healthy attachments as a means of achieving independence, Stener's approach is primarily existential in nature. It's not about health. His philosophy does not concern itself with the emotional or relational consequences of breaking attachment in the traditional sense. Instead, it is focused on liberating the individual from the mental constructs that impose any notion of external responsibility, obligation, or limitation. Stener's approach to self-ownership is an intense philosophical position that centers on individual freedom over psychological adaptation or health. So, I propose a shift in priority and deep and brutally honest self-reflection, which addresses the inherent lack in oneself. So what would this approach look like in practice? Well, it involves 3 steps. The first one would be to identify the spook. So what societal or familial ideals are shaping your attachment? And are you pursuing or rebelling against them for your own fulfillment or because you've internalized the desires of the other? The second one would be confronting the lack. So recognizing that no attachment or ideal can ever fully resolve the sense of lack at the heart of human subjectivity. And instead of fighting this lack, learning to embrace it as part of your freedom. And the third would be to reclaim desire. So to shift your focus from what the other wants to what you truly desire. And this involves creating your own rituals, your own connections, and your own meanings on your own terms. So, why is the no attachment or breaking attachment approach better than the healthy attachment approach, and what does it even mean? Does it mean you need to reject people completely? Does it mean you need to avoid the world and all forms of conformity and just bed rot in your room, scared of spooks, and become a cynical, miserable person? No. I believe that the reason why Stener is so misunderstood is because people take what he says as doctrine rather than practice. They assume he's doing more than just expressing himself and talking about his might, his power, his ownness, and his unions. Egoism just means self-expression, and self-expression isn't possible without a nuanced and adequately deconstructed understanding of personal desire and the consequences thereof. So Stener isn't telling you how to live your life. He is telling you how he is living his life and encouraging you to find your own way to live yours. So let me speak from my own perspective. My way is my way. My needs are my needs. My desire is my desire. And this is something that I have come to understand because of the deconstruction that I've done, because of the detachment that I've allowed myself to have. And I don't think I need to work on it. I don't think I need to compromise. I don't think I need to become better at it. I think I know what I need and desire, and I am going to look out for that. And I am happy for other people to do the same. And by telling you to better understand your attachments, I'm not telling you you need to do the same as me. I am simply telling you it might be useful to understand your level of attachment to people in close relationships in order to be able to know just how bad it is for you. And I believe that the only way to do that is to completely break away from all sense of social obligation in a very egoist fashion. So having a nuanced understanding of the psychology of attachment makes you better able to actually have solid relationships that are based on mutual understanding and benefit rather than social obligations and objectifications. This is something that I believe. And I think this is something that Stener encourages as well. So Stener gave us Hey friends, I want to quickly let all of you know that we are open for business, meaning you're now able to become a supporter of the channel through the membership feature, and I'm happy to offer some very special perks as well. You can also sign up for the Patreon still, of course, and support the channel or the project, whatever suits you, and if you can't support the project financially, there are other options as well. As you know, we have come up with some cool projects, including the e-zine, which by the way is open for submissions, the review newsletter, which is also open for submissions of reviews, and the Shana library, and we are working on a podcast. Oh yeah, and we're also selling some pretty cool t-shirts and other merch if you're interested. Please feel free to have a look. I will provide all the relevant links in the description. Thank you to our current supporters. I really appreciate you guys. You have no idea. Please make sure to participate in the upcoming call for topic requests for members on Patreon or YouTube, which will take place every Monday, and then vote on the topic on Tuesdays. All right, see you next week.